Good morning, students. Today we are going to start the lesson A Truly Beautiful Mind, and it is about Albert Einstein. Now, this chapter is in the form of a biography. Now, students, what is a biography and how is it different from an autobiography? A biography is the life story of a person written by another person, and an autobiography is the life story of a person written by the same person. Now, coming to the title of the story, A Truly Beautiful Mind. Here, the beautiful mind refers to the mind of Albert Einstein. And who doesn't know him, isn't it? He was a great scientist, mathematician, and a physicist. But there are certain lesser known facts about Albert Einstein which we will come to know as we proceed with the text. Okay. Now, Albert Einstein was born on 14 March 1879 in the German city of Ulm, without any indication that he was destined for greatness. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. To her, his head seemed much too large. Okay, so we can see here that Albert was born in a city in Germany called Ulm. Okay, and when he was a small child, no one ever predicted that he would someday become such a great scientist. Rather, his mother called him a freak. She thought that he was a freak. Okay, what is the meaning of the word freak? Freak, a word used disapprovingly to talk about a person who is very unusual and does not behave or look or think like others. Okay, and moreover, he also had a big head. So, overall, his mother always thought that Albert was a freak. Okay, at the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. You can see here that usually children start talking at the age of 1.5 year, right? But here you can see that Einstein was not able to talk even at the age of 2.5 year. And when he finally started speaking, he uttered every word twice. See, so unusual he was as a child, isn't it? And finally, at the age of 2.5, when he started talking, he uttered every word twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children. Here you can see that he was not good at mixing with others, isn't it? So somehow he felt himself as if he was not able to get into the group. And other children also called him what? Brother boring. Why brother boring? Because he could not participate in the sports and the games that the other children of his age used to play. So the youngster played by himself much of the time. So here you can see that Einstein remained to himself all the time. He used to play with himself only. He especially loved mechanical toys. From the very beginning, since his childhood, he loved mechanical toys. Such toys in which some kind of machinery was involved, okay, such as automated cars, automated airplanes, etc. Once what happened, looking at his newborn sister Maja, he's said to have said, "Fine, but where are our wheels?" He's considered Maja, his small sister, as a toy, and he was wondering, where her wheels were. Wheels here refer to the feet. Small kids, they have very small feet. So, he was wondering where are her wheels. A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter much. Okay, so you can see here that even the school headmaster and the teachers did not have a favorable opinion about Einstein. He said, the headmaster told Einstein's father once, that it did not really matter what profession he would choose, because as it is, he will never be successful in anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6. See, this is one new aspect that we are coming to know about Albert Einstein, isn't it? He was not only a great scientist, but he also had love for music, and you can see that he started playing violin at the age of 6. Of course, because his mother wanted him to play violin. Okay, he later became a gifted amateur. Amateur means what? Doing something for your personal enjoyment rather than as a profession. So he became an amateur violinist later on, maintaining this skill throughout his life. But Albert was not a bad pupil. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old, and scored good marks in almost every subject. Okay, So when Albert was only 15 months old, his family shifted to Munich, and where he was enrolled in a school. And he was good in all subjects. He scored good marks in almost every subject. Okay, but he was very unusual, which is why his teachers and his headmaster thought that he will never do good in his life. Why? Because he was kind of a rebel. He used to argue with his teachers. Okay, there used to be clash of opinions with his teachers. So they thought that he is good for nothing. Einstein hated the school's regimentation. Regimentation means the strict discipline of the school. Okay, he hated the school's regimentation, the strict discipline of the school. Somehow he felt that his creativity was not getting no proper exposure in that school, and he often had clash with his teachers. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled. Okay, stifled means what? Unable to breathe, isn't it? Feeling suffocated. But here it does not mean physical suffocation. Here it means what? Mental suffocation. Einstein somehow felt that his creativity was stifled in that school, and so he left the school for good. Now this is an idiomatic expression, students. Please mark it. To leave something for good means to leave it forever. So he left the school for good. That means he left the school forever. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal. Okay, so previous year Albert's parents had to move to Milan. Okay, and they had to leave back their son with the relatives. And after prolonged discussion, prolonged means long, very long discussion, Einstein somehow could convince his parents that he wanted to study in Switzerland, because he found that Switzerland, the city, was more liberal compared to Milan. Okay, compared to Munich. So he somehow convinced his parents that he should be allowed to study in Switzerland rather than in Munich. Okay, liberal means what? People, this is a kind of a movement, you can say, where people respect and understand each other's opinion. Okay, so Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics, and after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. Okay, so you can see here that Einstein was highly gifted. He was very good in mathematics and physics, very much interested in these two subjects. And after finishing his school, he thought that he would study at university in Zurich, okay, in Switzerland. But science was not the only thing that attracted this young man, dashing young man with the walrus mustache. Walrus is a kind of a mustache. Okay, it's a style. Okay, that was very much in fashion during that time. Walrus mustache. So what else he was interested in? He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Mileva Marek, whom he found to be a clever creature. So he had a special interest in a fellow student, and her name was Mileva Marek. Because why he was interested in her? Because he found that she was very smart. She was a clever creature. Okay, this young Serb means she had come from Serbia. So this young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. During those time, women were not allowed to achieve higher education. So she had to come all the way from her place to Switzerland, okay, to study, to get her degrees. Okay, so Einstein saw in her an ally. Ally means what? A friend or an associate. Somehow he felt that this was the girl. Here was a girl who could understand him properly. Okay, and this girl was also against the Philistines. He was also against the Philistines, and this girl was also against the Philistines. Mileva was also against the Philistines. Now, who are called Philistines? Philistines, is a word used to talk about people who do not like art, literature, or music. During that time, students, there were a particular group of people who did not like art, literature, or music. Okay, so the other group of people who liked art, literature, and music called them Philistines. So here we can see that both Mileva and Albert Einstein liked art, literature, and music. And they hated whom? They hated the Philistines. That means the group of people who did not like art, literature, and music. Okay, so Einstein saw in her an ally, a friend, against the Philistines, those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. Okay, so people, in the university, even in his own family, there were people who did not like art, literature, and music, but she was one who appreciated art, literature, and music. So he found in her a good friend. Gradually the couple fell in love. Okay, and still we have letters, and in which we come to through which we come to know that Einstein used to write letters to his friend Mileva, and the letter would be what? All mixture of science and tenderness. Okay, he would write the letter very affectionately, mixing science with tenderness. Okay, affection, you can say. Wrote Einstein once in one of his letters, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." So here you can see the content of his letter, isn't it? It is very different, very unusual. It was not a regular love letter, isn't it? It was a very different kind of a letter where they talked about their future vision, their dreams, and he talked about his theory of relativity. He wrote once in one of his letters that it would be a very proud moment for both of us if we can, come up with our theory of relativity. Okay. In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. Okay. So after completing his graduation at the age of 21, he was still unemployed. He did not manage to get an employment. So he worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902. After 2 years, he secured a job for himself, and in these 2 years, he worked as a teaching assistant and he used to give private lessons. Now, where did he get a job? He got a job as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. Okay. Now you all know about patent, isn't it? When a person comes up with something new, his work has to be patent. Okay, it has to be made patent. Okay, or you can say copyright. So a document which gives the right of an invention to an inventor. Whenever an inventor is inventing something, his work has to be made patent. That means it would suggest that this work absolutely belongs to that inventor, isn't it? So he got a job in Bern. While he was supposed to be assisting other people's inventions, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. He said to have jokingly called his best desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. So you can see here, students, that as he was doing the work of assessing other people's invention, he was also actually developing his own ideas in secret. Whenever he used to get free time, he used to develop his own work. Okay. And he once jokingly remarked that his desk drawer, that means the drawer on which where he used to work, he called it the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. That is the Office of Theoretical Physics. Bureau means what? Office of Theoretical Physics. So somehow he said that all the credit goes to what? Goes to that office, to that desk drawer where he kept all his papers. Okay. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. So here you can see a connection with your science subject. Okay, you must have studied about Einstein's theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. It is not constant, isn't it? Absolute means it is not constant. It is not measured in itself, but it is in relation to anything else. That means it is relative. When it is in relation to something else, it becomes relative, isn't it? So he was the one who said that time and distance were not absolute. They were relative. Indeed, you can see here in this picture, okay, three clocks are given to here. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So here you can see he has used the example of clocks. Okay, suppose you keep two clocks in front of you, okay, and you start with the same timing. Suppose it is 2 o'clock. After maybe 3 or 4 hours, when you come back and check both the clocks, you will see that one of the clocks have moved faster than the other clock, maybe by a few minutes or a few seconds, but definitely one clock must have moved faster than the other clock. This is how he explained the theory of relativity, that time and distance are not absolute, they are relative. And from this followed the world's most famous formula, which described the relationship between mass and energy. The famous formula, E equals to mc square. Students, here 2 should go as a square, okay, mc square. In this mathematical equation, E stands for energy, m for mass, and c is the speed of the light in a vacuum, okay. So now this same thing has been so beautifully, lucidly explained by him in very simple language, okay, in a very funny way. So what he's saying, when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes, okay. But when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. This is called relativity. So here you can see that in such easy, simple way, he has explained his theory of relativity. He says that if you're talking to your best friend for 2 hours, it would appear that you have only talked to that your friend for only 2 minutes. But if you sit on an uncomfortable hot stove for 2 minutes, it will appear to you as if you have sat over there for 2 hours, right? So while Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, okay, Einstein was growing very famous and very popular, isn't it? And he was solving so many difficult problems in physics, unknown facts about physics, okay, he was inventing. But his private life was unraveling, okay, starting to fail, okay. What happened? Let us see why his private life was unraveling or starting to fail. Albert always wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. But his mother did not want him to marry her. Why? Because his mother thought that Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. Mileva was 3 years older than her son, and so she thought that she would be too old for him. And she was also concerned about the fact that Mileva was a highly intelligent girl. She called her what? She is a book like you. She told her son that you want to marry Mileva, but she is a book like you. You are, if both of you get engaged with books, then how will your family life survive? So Einstein had to put the wedding off. Okay, so Einstein could not marry her for some time, but the pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But finally, somehow they married in 1903 and they gave birth to 2 sons. But what happened? Sad enough, a few years later, the marriage faltered. Okay, started crumbling, did not work properly. Why? You can see, because Mileva was a very intellectual lady and she had her own sets of ambitions, right? And she was not happy being a housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. So they got married in 1903 and they divorced in 1919. After that, Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Now, a new personal chapter began in Einstein's life, isn't it? And this new chapter also coincided with his rise to world fame. Okay, now this is the second spell of his life, right? A new chapter has started in his life when he got divorced with Mileva and married his cousin Elsa. But this also coincided with his rise to world fame. He started becoming very famous. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. Isn't it? We all know the law of gravity, isn't it? Everything is, attracted towards the center. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate, and his theory became, it was proved to be right in 1919 during a solar eclipse. Okay, Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. So we all know that the sun has its gravitational field, right? So he had already calculated that how a particular star will be deflected. Okay, if you view it from the earth, you will see the star in a different location. Okay, so here deflected means what? Change direction because it hits something, because it hits something. So here let us read these lines once again. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected. The light, okay, the path of the light will be deflected through the sun's gravitational field, because of the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded, lauded means what? Appreciated by the press. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated, okay, to the United States. So what happened when the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933? Einstein emigrated. That means he shifted. He left his own place, own country, and settled in another country, to the United States. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. Now again here, see, this chapter is so interesting, isn't it? Here you can see the picture of Adolf Hitler, and here we are going through the phase of Second World War, isn't it? Which started in 1939 and ended in 1944, right? And here we are talking about we are knowing about the Nazis in the Germany, and we know about Hitler, isn't it? His dictatorship. So somehow Einstein felt that it was not possible for him to stay longer in Germany, so he emigrated to USA. Okay, after going to USA, he felt that since Germany was working on nuclear fusion, okay, this is the process by which bombs are made, right? Atomic bombs are made. So he was knowing it, okay, he was knowing it that Germany was secretly conducting some kind of experiments on nuclear fusion. So what did he do? He tried to warn the then American President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and where he wrote in a letter that a single bomb, if Germany drops a single bomb of this type in the port of America, then not only that port will be destroyed, but the surrounding areas will also be hugely devastated. Now Roosevelt took his words very seriously. Okay, his words did not fail to have an effect. Okay, what did the Americans do? The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and had dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. We all know about it, isn't it? America dropped the atomic bomb in two cities of Japan. One is in Hiroshima and the other one is in Nagasaki. Now, Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. These atomic bombs have, had a massive destruction in these two cities, and Einstein was deeply shaken. He was very sad about it. This time he wrote a public missive. Missive is a letter, okay, long letter, official letter. He wrote it to the United Nations. We all know that United Nations came into existence after the World War II, right? So he wrote a letter, and in it he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. In the previous letter, when he tried to warn Roosevelt about the impact of a bomb on USA, on America, Roosevelt took it very seriously, isn't it? But when he wrote another letter to United Nations, this time his letter made no impact. Okay, but over the decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms build-up and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. Okay, for the next decade, for the next 10 years, okay, he was not only involved in scientific inventions, rather he got involved in politics, and he was trying to end the arms build-up that was taking place in the entire world. Okay, and he has used his popularity as a scientist to campaign for peace and democracy, to advocate world peace and democracy. I hope you all have understood the text, students. Now I want you all to read the text all by yourself. Okay, you can do it this evening for a better understanding of the text. Okay, thank you, students.